So how did you become a photographer? Was it by intention or was it something you found accidentally?
It wasn't by intention. I mean, I discovered photography much later. My first love was painting and sculpture. So I started, I applied for the university to study this. And the first year I kind of understood that it's not really what I want. It's something that happens so slow. And I have the dynamic and the fire to do things fast, to make decisions fast. So somebody mentioned about a school for photography, and I was immediately interested because I was 6 when my father gave me a present, a camera. So I was photographing the family, but without the idea of becoming a photographer.
But before you came to Democratia, before you found the job as a photojournalist at Democratia, were there any other significant projects that you had done which gave you the confidence or opened the door to such a newspaper?
No, actually, that was the time my son was born. And there were a few years dedicated to him in the beginning. Then I did a few small jobs, but I was politically active. And I learned about underground organization created to support the violations of human rights in Bulgaria. They were primarily towards Turkish and Pomak citizens of Bulgaria. So I signed in this group and was just before 89, probably a year before 89. And there I met many other people that were extremely dedicated to taking the communist regime down. So I knew about the idea of having a newspaper. It wasn't a big fight who's going to work in the newspaper, because most of the people didn't want to work in that newspaper. It wasn't clear what's going to happen politically. And later, the wall fall and the communist regime disappeared, allegedly. But yeah, there were actually 4 or 5 people that were ready to work in this newspaper, and I was one of them. Mm-hmm. And I think it was one of the most important and emotional period of my life, because it was everything that I loved together. It was politically active. I was able, my family was involved. My son was always with me wherever I go. He was growing up on the squares with protests and meetings, and photography. And also I'm kind of, I think I have luck as a photographer.
In those years that you worked for Democratia, of course, Bulgaria was in this very important transition from a long history of communism to maybe breaking away from it. So what were some of the moments, or I would even say photos that you took that really gave people information that they didn't otherwise have?
Actually, most of the work related to the newspaper was about digging the past, digging these 40 years. So one of the projects that we did as a team in the newspaper was to invite people that spent time in concentration camps and photograph them, and they tell their story. So those are people that never in their life confessed in front of anyone, even in front of their families. But there is a good story about this. The first elections, first free elections in Bulgaria, there was a big demonstration the night before the elections. And of course, we at the newspaper were shaking. Are there going to be a lot of people, enough people? How presentable that's going to be? Because this is the capital, and it will influence the rest of the country when they see something massive. So I remember walking direction to the demonstration, and with the American ambassador at that time, because he was visiting very often the newspaper, and there was a stage with stairs, very high. So I started climbing the stairs, and when I went on the top, actually my breath stopped. There was everything that I saw in front of me were millions of people. So I found a crane, and I photographed this with, people, and flags and the joy and everything. So the next day, this image appeared on the front of the newspaper, which was a classical size, big newspaper, the whole page.
Mm-hmm.
It was really even not difficult to make picture. It was strong in a way.
Yes.
Capturing the moment. I remember that the vice president of the country at that time was a woman. She was probably the first woman in Bulgarian, maybe second in Bulgarian politics. So we spoke with her, and she said, "Huh, you did this picture? I can imagine that a woman could do this."
1989, was it?
It was 91.
91.
91.
Okay. We're working to photo evidence. You set up this publishing house to give a chance to people whose projects would typically be denied by popular publishing houses and newspapers and magazines. So the times have changed, Svetlana. So now everyone carries a phone and walks around, and everyone can have their own website and, publish on social media. So in the context of this landscape now, how important is a project like Photo Evidence Award to recognize projects that would otherwise be denied mass media attention? Do you still see that it's important to provide this platform?
I think it's extremely important. I could give a simple example. It was in the beginning of Photo Evidence, and I received an email from a photographer who worked for 5 or 6 years in Papua New Guinea, where women are in a terrible condition. They are raped and beaten by the families, cut fingers, and all this without any law that constrain them. They are even proud and celebrate things like that. So this photographer had the idea to start researching and working on this. So he heard about a woman that was whose lips were bitten by somebody. So he was walking on the street in Papua, and suddenly this woman walks across him. He recognized her because of the wound. He stopped her and explained his idea and what he would like to do with the project. And she said, "I'm ready to talk." And she was the first one to start talking. So by the time he contacted me, he already had a big story, and very difficult, very difficult. He had contacted every single media to publish it without any. So the moment we published this in the book, and I sent the emails, we received, because among my mailing list, we have UN, human rights, all the organization. The next day he's contacted by UN. They take the work and do traveling exhibit in Papua. Women talking one after another, raising, because in less than a year, they changed the law. Mm-hmm. And all this was the result of somebody's dedication. So this is not something that could happen like that.
I think it's about having a platform which has the capability to draw the attention of that work to the concerned people, like you just mentioned. Yeah.
It's about in whose hands you're going to be able to put this work.
That's right. So,
and actually, Photo Evidence, we publish the books, but our work starts after the book is published. Mm-hmm. Because then we start contacting with organizations and people who may have some impact, influence over the issue that we publish. And like that, in a teamwork, we could have a success.
Right, yes. And over the last 7 years that Photo Evidence award in photo evidence has been. Would you say that every book that you published had an immense social impact?
In a small or larger group, yes. But only 3 of them contributed directly to social change.
Besides photojournalism, what else, Svetlana? What else makes up your life?
Do you know, I'm one of these crazy people that at 7 o'clock a.m. I'm checking my phone.
But then you tell big stories.
But we tell big stories. I don't feel isolated because every day I speak with somebody from the other end of the world. And the project that we are working now are just so interesting. So I feel completed in a way. The only thing actually that missing is finances. Probably I'm not the only one.
Yeah, because we often hear that from people who are very passionate about bringing social change in some way, that it's always a challenge to find a financially successful model.
It's difficult, yeah. This is difficult to happen. And also, if everybody is completely honest about their interest in social change, most of the people are not truly interested. So that also plays some kind of role. Actually, the people I know that are really, really dedicated are just a handful of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That knows the responsibility of what you do and the consequences, and even that they start and they follow to the end. So there's not so much. And very often when we apply for grants or in private foundation, we receive an answer that they don't want to be associated with specific political issue or religious. But the injustice is there in many cases.
Yeah.
So what we do. So we try to modestly to do it wherever we can without too much funds, but we could flourish if we are better.
Yeah.
I think there is one more thing to say. It's not only the book award, it's the W award, which is dedicated to women who have a personal story to tell. So here it's not about social justice, or it's a personal story. It may vary for everything that happened to you. It turns out that women are very well turned inside and see the world differently.
Thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
And our conversation hopefully is not going to end here, and we'll go beyond.
No, you could call me or write me when you start your project, and I'll help you guiding it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Svetlana.